Hello and welcome. You're watching Medically Speaking, and I am Meenakshi Upreti. When we speak of coronavirus, vis-a-vis in relation to adolescents to children, we all know that the government has taken a positive step. Jabbing of teens, that is, of course, who are above 15, has already started. It's underway. There are lakhs of teens who have already been vaccinated. But what about those who are younger? The opinion in the medical fraternity is divided. Many say that there is an urgent need first to give booster shots to those who are comorbid, those who are above 18, and perhaps it's only after that we should think of vaccinating the younger ones. Far as the government is concerned, source-based, of course, information coming, confirmation with NewsX, as far as Entagi is concerned, they are thinking of starting vaccinating, jabbing teens from 12 years on, 12 to 15 years, from the beginning of this very March. In fact, Covaxin, of course, says that their vaccine is efficacious on 2 years plus. No risks involved. We'll have to wait and watch really what happens on that front. But to talk about vaccination of those younger than 15, the pros, the cons, the ramifications, the significance, I have a panel of experts, starting with Dr. Rajiv Seth, renowned pediatrician. He's also the chairman of IPSCAM. Dr. Shyam Kukreja, he's the HOD from the Max hospitals. I also have Dr. Krishnan Chug. He's HOD pediatrics, just like Dr. Kukreja. He's, of course, representing here the Fortis hospitals. And we have Dr. Manish Manan, he's HOD Pediatrics from the Paras Hospital. All right, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to start with you. First of all, Dr. Seth, what is your opinion? At the beginning, at the onset of the discussion, I'd already mentioned how the medical fraternity is divided. Many say, let's double jab the entire population first. Let's give boosters to those who are comorbid, perhaps above 40 years of age, and then think of children because of their inherent immunity. Where do you stand on this, sir?
Well, thank you very much, Meenakshi. It was high time that the children should be vaccinated as well. We know that children also have comorbidities, and children particularly who are malnourished, who are immune compromised, who have different diseases like diabetes or asthma or congenital heart disease, they can get this infection and can suddenly have complicated COVID. Right from the beginning of the COVID, we have seen that the children are either asymptomatic or have very mild minimal disease like fever, cough, cold, and would pass away.
Yeah.
And the studies have shown that a high seroprevalence of antibodies have also occurred in children. But there's one disease component of this, which is multisystemic inflammatory disease, or MIS, which is an extremely life-threatening illness. Although mortality is low in good settings with good ICU facilities, but with our country not fully having intensive care units in smaller regions of the country, in the district hospitals, it's very imperative that children should be vaccinated. So starting from 15 years onwards, and now from 12 years onward, this is since beginning of March, I believe, is a very good step by the government of India.
Right, certainly, sir. That is a commendable step, and that's a step which everyone appreciates. Dr. Kukreja, just to play the devil's advocate here, sir, many are saying that if you look at hospitalization numbers of children, yes, perhaps in the United States, the numbers are high. Children there have a more sterile environment, their demography is different, and perhaps that's why it cannot be compared to India. And those who are against vaccinating children, many of them these are top leagues within AIMS itself who are against vaccination of children. They say that the hospitalization of children is very low. Dr. Kukreja, as the head of the pediatric department of the Apollo Hospital in Parparganj, help us understand, first of all, what has been your experience like? Are you seeing children who are landing in hospitals or in ICUs?
See, generally, the diseases are absolutely safe in children. If you compare the data of adults and children, then let's put it like this: the global data by WHO is 0.5% of all mortality, global mortality, is less than 25 years. So it is very, very low. So children usually have a very low risk of getting into ICU and oxygen need and all that, as compared to adults. And particularly in Omicron, the risk is lesser. So that's the reason there's a debate. Is there really a need to vaccinate these children who are already at a very low risk? So, for example, the debate is, for example, messenger RNA vaccine the Covishield vaccine, which has associated side effects. Like messenger RNA has an incidence of myocarditis, maybe 1 in 10,000. Okay, the latest data indicates. So in that situation, should I give this vaccine? But we have a very good vaccine, that is Covaxin, which is on a very safer platform. It is an absolutely killed vaccine. So you are using I think, a vaccine which is proven one, which has hardly any side effects. So as Dr. Seth was saying, I think I'm very keen to cover the older age group among the pediatric age group. One, because whatever risk is there, little on the older side. And two, the comorbid conditions. So I'm very keen to vaccinate the comorbid conditions. But if there's a debate, something like that, that I've got X amount of vaccine, and who should be given second booster to adults or children, I'll definitely go for second booster to adults. But we have enough vaccine, because we have enough vaccine. In this situation, yes, go ahead and vaccinate children as well.
Dr. Chugh, where do you stand on this discussion, sir? Are you rooting for vaccinating children at the earliest, perhaps at least those who are 12 years and above? Because as far as the government is concerned, and sources within Intagi telling us that come March and the vaccination of those who are above 12 is most likely to start. Where do you stand on it? Would you agree with Dr. Kukreja here? So can you unmute yourself?
Well,
Yes.
I fully agree that vaccinating children should not be delayed. Even if we are trying to, let's say, balance the two, whether it should be adults with comorbidities or whether we should be giving only to children of 12 to 15, including them also in the age group of 15 to 18, we already started. I do not see a shortage of the vaccine. I do not see a shortage of people who can vaccinate the healthcare personnel required. So I think both of these things can go on simultaneously without affecting each other. So there's probably we don't really need a debate on this. If the vaccine is less in amount, or if we have shortage of other things, then only we should be debating it. If the vaccine is enough, no debate.
Right. As far as the vaccination is concerned, of course, I agree with Dr. Chugh. If you have enough vaccines, then why have this discussion? But do we have enough vaccines as far as Bharat Biotech is concerned? They say yes. But if you look at reports which are coming in, sir, it's the Maharashtra government which has very categorically multiple times asked the government and spoken about shortage of vaccine as recently as last week. Down south also we had seen Tamil Nadu earlier. There was a Kejriwal government also. Now situation has stabilized. But Covishield, yes, we have enough Covishields, but we don't know about the side effects of Covishield. Dr. Manan, before I take this further, what is your opinion? Do you think that we should first think, if a choice is given, we should first think of vaccinating those above 12, or should we give boosters to those who are say 40 plus and comorbid?
See, the answer is very simple. The vaccine which has been certified to be used in children is Covaxin, which is a killed vaccine. And Covishield is not short. We have plenty of Covishield. Most of the majority of the vaccination going on in the country is Covishield. So like Dr. Chugh said, both can go simultaneously. Not everybody will come forward. There is a little bit of vaccine hesitancy, especially in smaller places. That will also eventually take its time to pick up. So I think both can go simultaneously, gradually. I also strongly feel that, if this vaccine comes into retail and if the pediatricians are allowed to, use it in their clinics, especially between 12 to 14 years, it will make it more successful.
Yes. And now, as far as Bharat Biotech is concerned, and also the CII, both have applied for a full license. We'll have to really wait and watch where the DGCI and the government stand on this. But Dr. Seth, when we're speaking of Covaxin, there is a genuine shortage. There is anyway very small amount, a very minuscule amount of population which has been administered Covaxin, sir. There are state governments which have time and again spoken about how they're facing shortage, especially of Covaxin. As far as the children are concerned, as of now, they can only be administered Covaxin. But later, what happens? What about mixing and matching? We know nothing about that. Does it mean that we are forcing a large number of population in our country? If we start inoculating those above 2 with Covaxin, you end of the day force them to take the same vaccine, because we have no data on mixing and matching as of now.
You are quite true that we have robust data on Covaxin. Also, the other vaccine we do have data is and safety is Covishield. The other vaccines, Serum Institute is making another one, Covavax, for 2 to 17 years. So, and as Dr. Cham Kukreja just mentioned, the other vaccines, the mRNA and other vaccines, also there's a report where Pune-based companies gone into the phase 3. The issue is that whether children need to be vaccinated or not. I think the first and foremost, I would say yes, because there is these children, especially over 12, they are in the little middle and higher classes, and they need to be engaging with their education. It's been a long time, and there's a lot of stress related to just online learning. They are not learning. There's mental health challenges in children, and there is also a risk of the multicystic system disease, although it is very low. The Lancet Commission data said that about 2.4% mortality in children below 10 years. So it is very low, but certainly when and how the government is going to procure these vaccines, that is something they must have shown into once they have taken up the challenge. And certainly I believe that in times to come, the shortage should be resolved. I think since the government has taken this step to immunize over 12 years, they must have taken into account the shortages, and I hope that they will build up. And with other vaccines, there is also the Zydus Cadila vaccine, which was given the clearance for children over 12 years way back in August. We also need to see that should come into the market. The whole thing is the children over 12 years should be vaccinated, and the adults are anyway getting Covishield. So the people who are planning this exercise, they must have taken into these logistics and accountability before declaring that they will now vaccinating children over 12 years.
Well, absolutely. As far as the logistics and availability is concerned, we'll have to wait and watch. You rightly said, sir, the two other vaccines which have been approved. Dr. Kukreja, what do you think? Covovax, Corbevax, the two other new COVID vaccines which India has added to its arsenal, and perhaps hopefully in a few months from now, we will see them being administered as well. Help us understand really for the layman what they really mean. Can they be administered to children? Do we know of any risk associated with them yet?
See, these are the vaccines which, for example, Covaxin, Covavax, all these vaccines are on a very established platform. We have a data regarding similar vaccines being already used in our practice. So, the reason is, if you are dealing with a population, for example, we know there's a high risk of disease in elderly. And that's the reason, even if there are little side effects, they are acceptable of the vaccine. Because there's a very low risk of disease in children. So the vaccine has to be more safe. So that is what I was talking about. So if there's a very low risk, you need a safer vaccine. So in that situation, yes, Covaxin and Covavax, they fit the bill.
All right. So you think Covovax, Covaxin fit the bill? We'll have to wait and watch, of course, when the two other vaccines which have been...
As Dr. Seth was saying, the DNA vaccine, which is by Zydus.
Zydus, yes. We'll have to wait and
watch. The problem is these vaccines have not been used in adults. So we'd like to see the data in adults and then go on to children.
Right. And Dr. Chugh, as far as administering vaccine to those under 12 is concerned, where do you stand on that? Today itself, there was a plea which was filed by a Delhi mother, which came up in the Supreme Court. There are many parents who are now knocking the doors of Supreme Court because they want their wards to be inoculated at the earliest. Minors who are perhaps even younger than 12. Where do you stand on that discussion, sir?
Well, as has been already said, that these vaccines that we have are very safe. Then the next point is only availability. As we have started from a higher age group of children and then we are moving downwards, I think that's a very wise way of starting and inoculating children. In Western countries, they have inoculated children more than 6 years in many countries, and even younger in some countries. 6 to 12, of course, there's a lot of data that it is as safe as in older age groups. So I see no reason why we should not also start enrolling those who are 6 to 12, subject to availability, and that availability, how much is being produced, when the next batches are coming, and when would they be ready for inoculation, is the data that's available only with the governmental agencies and not with us. So we would say that if they are saying yes, it means, as has been pointed out, that there must be enough vaccine available from, let's say, March onwards.
Well, fair enough. As far as the government is concerned, they also not want to create a panic, because once you start inoculating, a certain age group, you want to be prepared. It could be, of course, the fact that the government is preparing. That seems to be a logical explanation. But Dr. Manan, when we speak of those, as Dr. Chugh was also mentioning, many foreign countries. This was the point I was coming to now. There are many countries, of course, which have started inoculating children as young as 5 years, 6 years of age. In India, do you see it as a reality in the coming year or so, or do you think this is something which can be deferred?
So we need to be realistic. The mortality and morbidity less than 12 years of age is minuscule, very, very low. 75% of morbidity and mortality which we have seen in India is between 15 to 18 years of age. So justified that we start vaccinating 15 to 18 years of age. As we start vaccinating, we get more data on safety. As Dr. Kukreja said, when the morbidity and mortality is low, then the safety becomes of paramount importance. Then when we go from 12 to 15, we'll have more data on safety and efficacy. And that will give us the confidence of being able to go down the line. The vaccine shouldn't cause more harm. So safety has to be seen. The panic which has been created in the society, the mothers you said knocking the Supreme Court, they have to be reassured of the realities. Yeah,
but is it, sir, as far as India is concerned, yes, the numbers are reassuring and there is no doubt about that. But Dr. said, when we look at numbers, perhaps in the US, we are seeing a large number of hospitalization. We had another discussion on it, and there were many doctors on the panel who said, do not compare. India and US demographics different, the way families function different. Of course, children also live in a more sterile environment. But when you see a large number of hospitalization in the US, the question does come to your mind. Far as India is concerned, are we prepared, or perhaps vaccine is the best bet as far as the children of these youngsters are concerned? Perhaps that's why you have mothers who are knocking the doors of the Supreme Court.
So we should not compare it. Yeah, sorry.
No. Sure. In the US, the infection rate is pretty much very high. And about 14% of the cumulative cases, the American Academy of Pediatrics, their Committee on the Infectious Disease have reported. So they've had and most of these children who are actually admitted in the US hospitals, in the children's hospital, were, needing tertiary care, and they had comorbidities and immunocompromised children who had chronic lung disease or neurodisabilities. There are studies to show in the UK also that children who have disabilities, they will not be able to express themselves at all. And many times they would have higher, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes. So while we have data from the US that, and also Indonesia has reported, so different countries and different demographics are reporting higher prevalence of infection. But, another thing is almost 2 years have gone by. Education and child development go hand in hand. And that is one thing, for reasons that, last time the board exams were deferred, all the other issues, the challenges of online learning, the mental health, behavioral problems in children, is something that we need to be mindful of. And government has taken almost 2 years to come to the terms of immunizing children at this point of time. And I think with availability and logistics in place, I think that gradually we will see at least 12 years and above, they should get the vaccinations. And let's hope more data should emerge in India. See, in India, we don't have data about children hospitalizations, even the asymptomatic infection. There was a ICMR thing that 70% of the children, but we don't have good data in India. Yes. And I think more research should go into COVID infections in children.
Yes, more research needs to be done, of course, in this area. That's a pertinent point, sir. But Dr. Kukreja, when we speak of hospitalization of comorbid children, that's something which we are seeing in other countries. Yes, logistics are certainly something which the government needs to sort out. The population also much higher in the country. So the government, even if they want, they cannot say that from tomorrow we'll start inoculating all children. But can we, or would you at least suggest that the government start inoculating those who are comorbid, those children, not just adolescents, and I'm speaking of someone much younger, perhaps even toddlers, say, if not much younger than 5 years plus, at least do you think government should start thinking of inoculating comorbid youngsters at the earliest?
Absolutely. I think we have discussed last time also in this forum only, the comorbid and the immunocompromised, they need to be protected faster. The most important thing is, whenever now in this pandemic situation today, any child who's coming to us, he has an incidental presence of COVID. It's a bystander and all that. All pediatric illnesses, there's a COVID is there as an incidental or a bystander finding. So basically, it is not basically, then the patient can be labeled as COVID, but it is just because of this pediatric illness the patient is coming. So most data in all of the world is like that, even in adults. Now coming to second point, whenever the people are saying that we want COVID vaccine fast, they are not realistic about it. I tell you how. For example, they give me the vaccination card and they say, Doctor, kab aayegi COVID vaccine? We are very worried. And see their vaccination chart, the DPT has not been given, MMR has not been given, which are much more deadly diseases than as compared to COVID. I always tell them, COVID ne kuch nahi karna aapke bacche ko, these are more deadly diseases.
And Dr. Chugh, just to take this thought forward for the parents watching this show, we have discussed this earlier as well, right? When, the COVID cases had started, it was a Delta wave. And I think, as far as I remember, you were on the panel and we had spoken about this exact point which Dr. Kukreja is saying today, that as far as parents are concerned of younger children, you cannot forget basic vaccination. You cannot sit at home when it comes to, isolation. You're scared of going to hospitals. But what you do is you skip the basic vaccination which children should be given, and they can provide the shield of immunity, at least till you get the vaccine, isn't it? So could you shed some more light on it? Because this is certainly in public interest, sir.
Absolutely. We as pediatricians are very, very worried about it. We keep telling, but then the impact probably, we need more channels to take up these issues and almost hammer it in the heads of our parents that the vaccines that we were always talking about, that we were always, diseases that we were always protecting against, whether it's measles, chickenpox, or DPT and hepatitis A, hepatitis B, those are far deadlier diseases. If we don't protect, they will come back. And when they come back, your child who has not been fully vaccinated is the more likely target. So we should not forget those vaccines. But I think Omicron has made us, let's say, a whole problem or a whole system that we are trying to tell our parents somewhat easier, in the sense that now everybody is realizing it's a milder disease. It's going off in 2-3 days. No child is requiring hospitalization, or very, very few are requiring hospitalizations. So probably it's coming to their, let's say, mind that other vaccines and other diseases are still a priority, and Omicron type of virus, the vaccine against it can wait a little bit.
Yeah, and there is a panic around it. Certainly that exists. But Dr. Manan, the panic also is because of the healthcare in our country. Rural areas aside, even in urban areas, how prepared are our hospitals? And I know all of you will say that the hospital you represent is prepared. But overall, do you think that our hospitalization or a hospital system is prepared to take, if at all, the burden of hospitalization as far as children are concerned, if that increases?
So compare the present situation with what was in May. Similar number of cases, the hospitalization was, I think, 20 times more. The beds were full. Like today you come to the emergency, there are very few patients. The COVID wards are empty. There are very few. Leave aside children, even adults are not requiring as much hospitalization as it was happening in the month of May last year. So please accept this fact that Omicron is causing mild illness. Whatsoever WHO may say that no, don't call it mild, call it less severe, it means the same thing. Like Dr. Chugh said, hospitalization in children is very, very less. The children who are requiring hospitalization, I'll tell you, are who? Their gastroenteritis with dehydration coming to the hospital, COVID has come positive. Typhoid requiring admission, COVID has come positive. Incidental. So, these are those children. I haven't seen any kid till date, who is required oxygen or a lung COVID pneumonia because of COVID in the present scenario. So I think we are very well prepared. Probably we hope, we may not need that kind of overburdened situation which you were talking about.
Yes, I agree with you. And the idea is not to spread panic. I cannot compare it with what had happened in Delta. I know how I've arranged beds for so many people in the last wave, and the situation is nothing like it. But Doctor said, to just take this thought forward, and I know the debate wasn't on this, but since we are discussing it, do you think that our hospital system is prepared to take the burden of hospitalization if that increases as far as children are concerned? Do we have enough pediatric ICUs, etc. available? I doubt it. I don't know.
Meenakshi, you hit the nail on the head. You're absolutely right. You go 80 kilometers away from Delhi or Gurgaon, you will not find a dedicated pediatric, what to say of a dedicated pediatric intensive care unit. People, I've been working in an NGO, going almost every other day, and there are absolutely for a population, say Mewat district, for a population of 11 lakhs, there are just 2 pediatricians. So there are no human resources also available. Pediatricians, pediatric nurses, intensivists. What to say of the instruments? Instruments and development of a pediatric ICU depends on dedicated manpower who are specially trained as well. It is not so easy, but certainly people who are at the level of district hospitals, primary care, they need to be trained very well to understand what are the danger signs of children having COVID and other comorbidities. And they should also use urgent referral services in tertiary care hospitals, which have dedicated pediatric ICU where Dr. Chuk comes from, or Dr. Kupreja and Dr. Manan comes from. But certainly, the message and the training needs to be imparted as quickly as possible because, it's not just Omicron right now. There's so many pediatric infections and diseases and high mortality and morbidity due to several infections. And it is predicted that huge number of children are going to die if routine vaccinations are not given on time.
And so, would you, just to take this thought forward, Dr. Kukreja, since we are short on time and we have about 4-5 minutes only remaining to close the debate, sir. Dr. Kukreja, just to take Dr. Seth's thought forward, would you say that this itself by manifold increases the need for vaccination of children at the earliest right now? Till now, we've been lucky. We've not seen too many children land up in hospitals. What if another new variant comes, new mutation comes? Is it not, would it not be sensible to start protecting our children at the earliest, start vaccinating as soon as possible, even those below, 12 years of age? Dr. Kukreja, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself, sir?
Regarding this current pandemic state, I'm very sure we are going to manage it easily. I'm very optimistic. And as far as the future is concerned, you should be prepared for the worst. But I'm very optimistic. I think this is going to be quite okay as far as management is concerned. See, if you compare the last pandemic, which was Delta pandemic, so what was happening? 20% of adults were getting into oxygen need or ICUs. And children 1%. In present pandemic, it is only 1 or 1% of maybe adults, and even 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 500 children. So we will be able to manage. So that is whatever data we have from the different parts of the world, we should be able to manage. But yes, I agree with you. For the future, we should be prepared, and we should have a vaccination of children. You never know what variant is going to come. Maybe it is the last variant. Let's hope it is the last variant.
We're all hoping that it's the end of the pandemic, as many are predicting. We'll have to really wait and watch. But Dr. Chug, I understand the point Dr. Kukreja is making, but as the mother of a 1-year-old child, I also want my son to be vaccinated at the earliest. I understand that the cases are low, but the fear is that right now, the time when we started giving boosters, this is personally, I believe it's a little late. So many of our HCWs are already in hospitals. So many, elderly have already caught the Omicron variant. Many experts also say, had we started giving boosters a month ago, the situation could have been different. We do not want a repeat of that in children. Perhaps that's why parents are panicking, and perhaps that's why they want the vaccination at the earliest.
Absolutely right point that if other variants are going to come, Omicron, yes, we know it's a mild one and chances it will pass off within a few months, if maybe a few weeks. But we are not sure about other variants. And will the next variant be as bad as Delta or even worse? Nobody can predict. And will it affect children more or less? That also we cannot predict. So from that angle, yes, we should protect our children as soon as possible, as many as possible. But 1-year-old probably will have to wait because data is only for 2-year-old and plus. So,
well, I agree. It's just my mother's mind which doesn't get the logic. Again, as Dr. Kukreja said, Dr. Saab laga do, vaccine laga do, bas. I don't want to get COVID. But last question to you, Dr. Manan, as we just close the debate, sir, there are many parents, anxious parents who are watching the show. In conclusion, what would you like to tell them? As I said, I'm one of them, and you can see the panic in, a parent's mind. What would you like to tell anxious, stricken parent like myself who are, I'm moderating those who are watching the show as well, sir?
Your panic is unfounded.
Yes, the first thing is that there should be no panic.
Yes.
There should be no panic. We should be realistic in what the situation is under the current circumstances. The mortality less than 12 years is almost negligible in India. When we say emergency approval of a vaccine, that means it is a life-threatening situation. Hence, we have to approve it under the emergency situation. So safety is of paramount importance. Whenever we come down, people say vaccine laga do. Koi ye bhi to aake puche ki how safe is it? What are the serious adverse effects of the vaccine? We should gradually go down, collect data on the safety and the efficacy as well, so that we have more confidence in giving it to a younger child. I'm not sure today, if with this much data, to give it to a 2-year-old child also.
Yes.
Gradually we should go. And routine vaccination should never be missed. Tell them that pehle routine vaccinations khatam karo. They are more dangerous, as Dr. Kukreja said.
Fair point.
Yes, if you say a large number of people have been given the vaccine, so it is very safe. So large number has been given the vaccine. It is a short-term data. What is going to happen in the long term? We do not have a data.
Yes.
So for children, I am more careful.
Yes.
So that's the
I think it's a fair point, sir, because it's there is a lot of skepticism also around the vaccine. There is vaccine want who are anti-vaccine. So if the government goes wrong even a little, then it could derail the whole drive. So it's fair that the government is waiting for data to come before vaccinating children. The number of cases low, but as I said, parents mind a little difficult to reassure them. For all those watching, not much to worry.
We're doing the best in the world
now. Well, absolutely. Do not worry. Get the regular vaccinations. Do not miss those. That's the message coming in. And let's hope we keep our fingers crossed, and let's hope that the vaccines for children, those, of course, mothers of toddlers, etc. Also, let's hope the vaccines come at the earliest. Thank you all for joining us and giving us your perspective on NewsX here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.